welcome back to a new season of We Don't Talk About Brexit, or as it's known this time, We Don't Talk About COVID. And we're on video now. This is the weekly video/podcast where we four people, sometimes six of us that slide in and out of the show, talk about news stories that are as far away as possible from the worst things that are happening in the world at the moment to keep you happy and sane. And we're going to start this week by telling a story with Natasha Kondrastrova, who on my screen is actually directly above me. I don't know if she is on yours, George.
She's on mine.
Hey!
Oh my god, this is better than Zoom, where you don't know where anybody is.
You know you're on the top, second on the right in Zoom.
Well,
Yep.
now I know.
Need to know that.
See, this is a news podcast. We find things out, you know.
Someone was just listening to that and they were like, wow.
The things you find out from these lockdown podcasts, eh? Anyway, back to my story. Oh, I said the L word, which has something to do with the C word, but there won't be any of that in this story. This story is called Lamborghini. That's right.
Lamborghini.
Yes, it's puns from the go here. And this story is about a brave young man, to be exact, a 5-year-old boy, who was stopped in a car by a police officer in Utah.
Utah.
Yes.
3 times. Otherwise you get arrested.
Utah. Ooh. Yes. And the interesting thing isn't that he was just in this car, it's the fact that he was driving this car to California on his own.
Can he reach the pedals?
Apparently, because he was driving, quote, quite well. Yeah, but the police were behind him and they saw the car sort of swerving a little bit. So they were like, okay, police alarm bells at that point.
They called sirens.
So they actually put the sirens on. And, brilliant, yes, Michael?
I was going to say, we're doing hands, by the way, so we don't interrupt each other. I was going to say,
organised.
So, you know he's like swerving to and fro. I have a feeling that's because kids think that to drive in a straight line, you average out the steering of the wheel of a car. Because I don't know if you watched Noddy when you were little, but Noddy drives like that. He's a fucking madman, this
I was going to say, where exactly does that come from? Because you do think that they do that, but like, but why? Because that's the opposite of true.
I think it's from like old films where they had where they were going projected on the back, so they weren't going anywhere. And it feels weird to just like the actor doesn't know actually where the car's going to be going, so they just sort of like guess it out.
So
my mum actually does drive like that.
Oh dear. Is she a 5-year-old in a Lambo?
Passed the test, like she can drive, but she does just slightly do this. She's driving, so you get a bit seasick in the car. You're like, oh god, down the motorway.
My mum and lots of my aunts and stuff passed the test back when it was the easiest thing to pass in the world, and I don't think they'd all pass the current driving test I'm having to do. Not gonna lie.
A 5-year-old did.
But this 5-year-old can. I mean, there's no information about where he learned to drive. But basically, the thing that me, as well as multiple YouTube commenters find hilarious, is that once the police put the siren on, the kid pulled over.
Aww.
Yeah.
He's at least well behaved.
Exactly, like he can drive. And so the police pulls over, the kid pulls over, and the police have a dash camera. So this is all on film. This is all something you can watch on YouTube. And they come in, and you see the police officer opening the door, and just go like, "Whoa!" and then I forgot exactly what it is that he says. He says something like, "Oh," and the boy goes 5. And the police officer goes, "You're 5? Whoa!
I had a feeling it was going to be like the kid was like, he like winds the window down, he's got his arm like up on the thing, he's like, was I going too fast?
What seems to be the problem, officer?
It's my license, and it's like drawn in crayon.
With like googly eyes on it.
Well, it is him. Can't argue that.
Well, keep driving. Which is not what I think happened. However, they did look into why he was driving, and the article says the boy, who was not identified as he is a minor, said he had left home in his parents' vehicle after arguing with his mother, who had told him she would not buy him a Lamborghini. So this boy, yes, made his way on his own to California to buy a Lamborghini with $3 in his pocket. Yes.
I've told you my story that my aunt, when she was a kid, her mum wouldn't. I'm going to sound posher than I am here. Her mum wouldn't buy her a horse, so she travelled to a different county and with her dad's checkbook and bought a horse and brought it back to the house. And so their parents got back and there was just a horse in the house.
I think you had told the story, and I think her dad was like, "What a scam!" And
she was like, "Well done, you."
That's how I feel about this boy, because it's a bit like, well, you know what? He kind of deserves a Lamborghini. Like, he's driving safer than some people. And, you know, he's made all this effort. He's showed initiative.
Yeah.
Like,
some people just have some money.
Yeah.
I think we should train 5-year-olds to be like, what are the guys that drive limousines for people?
Chauffeurs.
Yeah, let's train like an army of 5-year-olds. Just drive it. Because to be honest, I feel like 5-year-olds have gotten past the terrible twos. They've gotten past that unkind bit. Usually 5-year-olds, I think, are quite kind. I think they'd be quite good on the roads. Forget Google's AI car initiative. Michael Cook. Michael Cook for 5-year-old drivers. It doesn't quite have the ring I was looking for.
Basically what Michael's trying to say is, 5 years old, you're an adult, come on, contribute to the economy, yes, okay?
5-year-old man.
Imagine how much pocket money you could get from Uber with that.
Oh my god, yeah, they'd love it. Uber would be like, this actually worked out perfectly for us. We paid them a pittance and they're shit.
Other than child labour, I don't see any problems with that at all. Like,
yeah, they thought that in Victorian times about other things like, you're a small child, you can fit in a chimney really well. Go on.
Yeah. Actually, they could probably fit in Lambos better than adults. They're very small.
Very good point. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, to finish off, I'd just like to read a couple of the comments on the YouTube video. One of the comments is, he took more concrete steps to pursue his dreams than I have, which, okay. Lambo should give this kid a car. He drove better than my Lyft driver today.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then it's, yes. And then it's just basically people saying that they can't believe he pulled over. Like he knew that was a thing to do.
Imagine you got a fine and it was like a candy fine. You got to pay. In my mind, if children had currency, it would be lollipops. I feel like, and they'd be like, "Fuck."
The kid just puts a fab into the police officer's hands, like, you don't see anything.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that happened. Which is interesting. And yeah, I'm happy for this young man. I would invest in his future.
Did he get his Lambo?
I don't think so. I mean, you know,
he had the money.
$3.
I mean, I don't understand. That's the bit I don't understand. Did he just drive out of the shop? The Lamborghinis cost substantially less than I thought they did?
No. He was driving in his parents' car.
Which was a Lambo.
Oh.
To get a Lambo.
You have to drive a Lambo to buy a Lambo.
That's why he was driving, which is the classic, once there's some pressure on you and some energy to, get a goal, you can do anything, including drive if you're a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Kudos to this 5-year-old.
That's the moral of this story.
Well done, Tash.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that story. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Right. So my story this week is called "This Little Piggy Went to Tonga." It's really not a very good description of what the story is. I'm not going to lie. So everyone has heard the story, or read the story of Lord of the Flies. So a load of English kids crash land on the desert island. They proceed to attack, maim, kill each other, and sort of generally go into disarray. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
Good times. Good times had by all. Well, there's a Dutch historian called Rutger Bregman, some of you might know him, who likes to discover things about humanity's ability to be good. And he's written a book recently about how humans are innately sort of social animals. We are actually designed to sort of cooperate and get on with each other. And he wanted to find an example of Lord of the Flies that went the other way, that showed not that people are just going to tear each other apart, but that people can actually cooperate. And he looked online, he found a blog which put him onto exactly this kind of thing. And he was looking for it for years, and it turned out the blog had a typo. This is a lot of extraneous detail, I realise this. A typo of the year, and then when he realised that there was a typo, he found out this whole wealth of information about this amazing incident that happened in Tonga in 1966, where a group of lads, Tongans, were found off the coast of an island. They were found by a guy called Peter Warner, who was taking a boat out one day, and he saw a desert island that's like really rocky, and like people believed it was completely uninhabitable. But there was loads of fire. There was sort of like scorch marks on the side of the island, and he, in this part of the world, it's quite tropical. It's very wet and very humid. You don't usually get those kind of forest fires that look like that. So he got quite suspicious and sort of put his boat to go closer, and he thought there might be people on the island. And that suspicion was increased when he saw people on the island, and jumping out off the island and swimming at his boat.
There could be people on that island.
There could be people
Why?
Jumping off that island and swimming towards.
Because there are people on that island.
They're like climbing onto his boat, and he's like, I'm still not convinced.
My suspicions may be true.
So they start trying to get onto his boat, and he's a bit like, what's going on? And they speak to him basically in perfect English. Peter Warner's an Australian man, and they spoke to him and said, we've been on this island for 15 months. Can you help us? And this story of 6 Tongans who had 15 months prior to this, they apparently were tired of their food at their lunch times at school, and they were teenage boys, and they went to go fishing. So they borrowed someone's fishing boat to go out to sea and catch themselves some tasty fish. Sorry. And they got caught in a storm and spent 8 days just in this boat, drinking from water they caught in a coconut. And because obviously you can't drink seawater, and they rationed it out by having 1 sip each every morning and 1 sip each every evening. So really not very good conditions to be living in until they eventually saw this island.
Really good on their behalf to be able to take that ration, because I feel like the problem with this situation is that just one person who doesn't agree to it can throw it. So it's really good that they all...
Yeah, exactly. And so this is what Bregman was so interested by, because it showed all their cooperation. And one of them eventually swam to this island to scout it out, and they ascended onto this island and lived there for 15 months, and people thought it was going to be uninhabitable. When they eventually went back, after Peter saved them, people went back to discover what happened. They found the boys had a fire that they'd kept alight for 15 months, constantly. They had chicken coops. They had like a fruit and vegetable farm. They had houses. There was one instance where one of them broke their leg, falling down a hill, and the doctors who looked at him afterwards were amazed that he was completely patched up perfectly, because they sort of ran down the hill after him and said, don't worry about work, we'll do your share of the work for you. You can watch over as like the King of Tonga. And so it's just this really lovely story that I'm skipping over loads of detail because there's quite a few articles about it online. And they were eventually arrested by this man, Peter Warner. And who wants to guess what happened when they got back? Because the island, all of their villagers, 900 of them, came back to greet them, to welcome back these people who they thought were dead. There had been funerals held for them. Do you know what?
It's so weird. I didn't even think of that side of it.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, like, oh, brilliant that they survived on this island, but I didn't even think about how, obviously, when people disappear, there's the other side of it, of like people reacting to that. I don't know why I didn't think about that.
And so they came back, and it'd been like they'd come back from the dead. Does anyone guess what the welcoming party included?
I reckon there was one guy at the party who was like, I wonder what it would have been like if it went the other way. And he wrote Lord of the Flies.
William Golding's like,
William Golding's like, why am I in Tonga?
In 1966. I'm
imagining it. Oh.
Yeah, no, go Tash.
I don't know if this is a silly suggestion, but I'm imagining, has anybody seen The Road to El Dorado?
Oh,
a long time ago.
An amazing cartoon. I really recommend rewatching it as an adult. There are so many forums on various things in it. But basically, obviously the thing there is that people think that they're gods because they're different and because they found this land which nobody else has found. Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I'm imagining it a bit like that there were people who thought they did die and then came back because it's too crazy to believe that they survived on this island for 15 months because they'd all read William Golding.
They were like torn them apart.
They were like, some realistic.
Whichever the fat one was, he's gone.
We'll show him. We're going to make the good one.
Yeah.
Well, when they arrived, they were arrested because the person whose boat that they stole 15 months ago still held the grudge and and pressed charges immediately upon hearing that they were alive.
Oh my god. What an absolute crank.
So Peter Warner, the guy who saved them, who had he like immediately, I don't know exactly what the process is with film rights, but he had the rights to this being a film, and he sold off the Australian rights to ABC, I think it was, and used that money to bail the kids out and pay the person whose boat that they stole off for the lost boat. And
I thought you were going to tell me that he broke them out, and then they sailed away.
No. That was
right.
With William Golding as leader. He's like, I will show the world that the only way it goes is the way it goes in my book.
Maybe he does that. Maybe he just scouts out islands and just is like, Piggy says you're a twat.
Go on, do something about it. I don't know why he sounds like this.
He's a Cockney geezer, isn't he?
Famously
he's like
Cockney.
eating eel pie as he like growls at them from his boat.
So the story ends with basically Peter Warner gives all of these guys jobs on his boat and in his lobster selling company, and they were friends forever.
Aww.
That's amazing.
Beautiful.
It's obviously that didn't happen this week. It's not 1966, but it has been in the news quite a lot, and there's apparently now a big film rights acquisition scramble for people to get rights to that film, because people want to make the story of it, which would be cool.
This summer.
But remember, you saw it here first, as seen on We Don't Talk About Brexit.
Amazing.
You know what I've just realised? As like just as a brief aside, we can like look at each other.
Like on my screen, no one. You're looking just like
you look.
No.
So that's you waving to George.
Yeah.
What you just...
Waving the wrong way. and this is Tash.
Amazing.
Wow, the magic of technology.
George is telling this amazing story, and that's just playing on my mind the whole time. Oh my god.
Michael spent the entire time,
funny.
like the sketch about the university challenge. He's convinced people are above him. He's like,
I don't know that sketch.
it's very good. The university challenge people like climb into each other's screens and like they're like, oh come and get
Oh,
you.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. After that brief interlude, who have we got third?
It's my turn next to tell my story.
Yay.
Here we go.
I've called my story Red Red Road.
Red Road.
Red Road.
Red Road.
Your accent makes that very good.
Excellent.
So much better than just saying it.
Absolutely, I love that. Well, I mean, I could be like Red Red Road.
Red Road.
That would be
No, it's so much worse.
very good. Yeah,
So much
absolutely.
worse.
I mean, it's not the best title anyway, so let's not dwell. My story takes us to California. A man saw the opportunity of a lifetime and really just had to act on it. He could not control himself. Something happened in front of him, and he was like, "Now is my time," and he just went with it. And I personally think he's a very brave person. I don't think everyone else agrees. We're about to find out, Michael.
Tash's Katie's story. Man does a thing.
Yep, that's my story.
No, no, it is.
Anyway, Michael.
So what did you do?
Okay, so Gabriel Moreno was driving up Highway 99 in his sedan. He spotted something beautiful ahead. It was a big red Cherokee Freightlines tanker truck.
Ooh.
George, what do you think was inside this tanker truck? What liquid?
Inside this tank.
Tanker truck.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd
Could be anything.
California. I'm going to go for Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, that's very, very close.
Ooh.
So it actually was transporting some red wine.
Ooh.
And there were like thousands of gallons in this massive truck. And Gabriel clearly saw this as something not to be missed. He put on his hazard lights and asked the trunk to pull up at the side of the road. And so the driver, thinking there might be something wrong with his mechanics, was like, "Oh, I best pull up. There's something wrong."
And he's a 5-year-old.
It turns out,
Mum said I couldn't have a glass of wine for dinner, so I went and stole this truck.
That's exactly.
All this wine for a Lamborghini. I need a few extra bucks because I've got free. Obviously, all these accents are horrifically wrong.
Hello, I'm American. Hello.
I really just like the idea because those trucks are actually quite like hefty to control. Like I think you've got to have like quite a lot of physical strength to sort of like. I don't know, I feel like you've got to be pretty like tough, and just this 5-year-old like stacked to this like trucker arm, like one arm really tanned. Like, sadly, it wasn't 5-year-old. It doesn't mean it wasn't amazing. So camera footage that was recorded on the truck, dash cam. Well, I don't think it was dash cam because it was going the other way, but something. Shows Gabriel get out of his car and he's just in his underwear. Nowhere else in the article does it touch on why. But that could just be.
I guess why not?
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy had somewhere to go, somewhere to be. He didn't want to miss his chance. You know what I mean? What he does is he runs out of his car, goes to the passenger side of the truck, out of view of the camera. The truck driver didn't notice anything had happened, so he just pulled back onto the road, thinking, "Okay, my mechanics look okay. I don't need to stop. I can carry on." Where another camera has captured a guy who's climbed onto the truck with no shirt or shoes on, just clinging on for dear life as the truck speeds up to like motorway speeds. This guy is just like clinging. And he proceeds to climb to the bottom of the truck.
He's all like on the side of the truck.
Yeah.
Like he's holding on to something.
Yeah, so he's just like basically out of his car and just like jumped onto the bottom of the truck, out of view of the driver.
Like
and then the
Sideshow
driver
Bob
set off.
in the famous Simpsons episode.
That's it, yeah. So, like, I mean, this is pretty dangerous, as you can imagine. Like, I don't know how fast those kind of trucks go on the motorway, but I can imagine it's quite a high speed. Then driver's driving along, and eventually he notices that little gauge on his thing in front of his dashboard saying that he's losing liquid. And it's like, what? Like, so the tanker's emptying and he's losing gallons and gallons of liquid. What do you think might have happened, Tash?
Well, as I just suggested with my movement, I think everything was so stressful for the man clinging on that he proceeded to drink gallons and gallons of wine.
Are you not far off?
But how? Has he got like a screwdriver? A screwdriver?
Not like it's one of those
Just, like,
like
spray-
cans that you like.
What is
Just
it called?
spraying into his mouth.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wish it happened like that, but that's actually kind of easy how he's managed to do this. He's climbed on the bottom, and he's unscrewed the valve that holds in all of the wine, which in my head should be tied pretty tight. Like, you probably need like a machine to open that.
But you definitely need two hands to do that.
Yeah.
What's he holding on with his teeth?
After the driver noticed that he was losing liquid, he obviously pulled over again and he goes to inspect and he finds Gabriel just attached to the bottom of the truck. The police officer that got involved described him as looking like he was doing snow angels, so that kind of position, like just like attached like this. And he'd unscrewed the valve that holding the wine in, and wine was just gushing out, and Moreno was just with his mouth wide open trying to catch as much as he could. Like,
Oh God!
Wait.
But why would you I mean, even if you really like wine, like, what do I really like? Let's see. I quite like meringue, okay? I can't imagine a meringue truck going by and me just, like, letting go of my car, sprinting and cramming meringue into my mouth or something like that. You know, it's just... No matter how much I like something, I don't think I'd ever do that.
The problem that, I mean, he was in a bit of a precarious situation. Surely the aim wasn't at that point to drink wine, but to in some way get the driver's attention so that he doesn't die at some point flying off the truck.
Maybe.
well, that's what I considered was maybe happening. Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions. Like, let's be honest. I mean, why was he naked? Why did he attach himself to the truck in the first place? I mean, we're never going to get these answers.
Maybe he had the foresight. He was like, I'm going to be drenched in wine in a minute, so I better take my clothes off so they don't become sodden. And try.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that maybe he tried to climb into the tank, like he just wanted to be in the wine and didn't realise
like,
that
geese at last.
Oh.
a big bath just of red wine, like he's in some like hedonistic cult, just like living the dream. Anyway, so after all this went down, Gabriel Moreno got arrested, and camera footage was all reviewed. Not before he gulped down because of it, and also the truck lost 1,000 gallons of red wine all over the motorway, which is the equivalent of about 5,000 bottles. So it's not great. It's not the best idea he's ever come up with, but it's all caught on different cameras, so you can watch the whole clip if you want to go find out on YouTube. And I couldn't find online a statement from the guy who did this. So, I mean, we can only speculate on why.
We could try and say what we think his closing statement would be.
Yeah.
Story.
Yeah.
I mean, he's consumed a huge amount of red wine in like minutes. So, I mean, I'm not sure he'll be making a lot of sense.
I was caught
I
red-handed.
Hey.
I think his closing statement would be, nobody sees this situation. There's a Guinness World Record in it. I've consumed so much.
Actually, wait. hang on.
Maybe.
I think he was like, did you know the 6 boys lived on an island?
I swear I saw a small child driving. On the way here. Everyone's like, shut up, you're drunk.
Have you ever listened to We Don't Talk About Brexit? I'm hoping to get on it and do a story on this.
Well, I like to think of him as just a very brave gentleman who saw an opportunity and just thought, well, you know what? I'll live once. Just going to give it a go. And he probably didn't expect it to work, and it did too well. Yeah, I mean, I think we can only be impressed.
I think we're all impressed. That's an amazing
We are all
story,
impressed.
Katie.
Let's clap the story and the man.
Yes, definitely.
And Katie.
And me too, thanks guys.
Yeah.
I think next we're handing over to Michael for his final story.
Oh, you can do that like that spinny thing. The wrong way.
Oh, sorry. I think it reflects, doesn't
We
it?
could actually all do it and point at Michael. Should we try?
Oh no, because that
Can we
makes
do,
it,
like,
that puts a lot of pressure on my story.
Yeah, I know.
Let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
George, it's just George that wasn't pointing the right way.
I think you'll find my computer's the one that's recording, so I'm the only person who knows that they're pointing the right way.
Oh my god.
No. This whole
Okay.
time. Okay, right, let me there we go, get ready. So, my story is called Do You Want to Talk About Streaming? And there's a reason why the word do you is in the title. Do You, TikTok, and Twitch are all they're three very different streaming platforms, all built for varying purposes, different types of streaming that people get different things out of. You know, they've all got very active creator audience engagement, and all of them have been involved to some varying degree in some controversy. So I've actually tried to be a bit poetic here, but I don't know if it works. So let's just see. Like a clock signaling the beginning of a new day, we'll start with a TikTok.
Oh,
Well, actually,
beautiful.
it starts with a dong, though, doesn't it? Actually, no one's like, "Oh, there goes the tick." It's there goes the bell, the chime. So, and now have we just to make a very brief discussion here? Has anyone used TikTok here? I haven't, but
No.
Nah, I downloaded it.
Very familiar.
you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I watch a lot of TikToks, but I've not been on it. I've never done a TikTok.
Is it like Vine?
It's
A little bit.
similar in some ways, yeah. I think that there's a maximum of 60 seconds recording for a video. There's loads of like video effects you can apply to it, and you can reply directly to someone else's video. So you can end up with like stream after stream after stream that are all stacked next to each other, and they're all like in response to one another. Now it's owned by the ByteDance Corporation. This TikTok is, and it's risen to popularity with hundreds of thousands of users. Like I don't think I think when we saw the original TikTok adverts land, I don't know about you guys, but I had a feeling that it was going to be big because of just the sheer ubiquity of how much their advertisement was being pushed out. So ByteDance is a corporation in China, and behind the scenes of all the sketches and the dancing, and sometimes a little bit of cringe, and actually, unfortunately, so there's a little bit of bullying. There's quite an upsetting side to this service. So a couple of years back, it might have been last year actually, users who were deemed to be unattractive or poor were being deliberately diminished on the platform. So there was a document that I think it might have been Vice magazine or someone else who uncovered by, I don't even know how they did it, but they basically got a document that has this grid that says like, if these attributes appear to be present in the video, they never go on trending. And they include things like have an obvious beer belly, fangs, lack of teeth, a shabby looking house, cracks in the wall. And I think that it's kind of like, it's very upsetting behavior, obviously. I don't think that any platform should be engaging in this because it obviously quells diversity. But they were only happy for the diversity to be used where it was what they deemed to be beautiful people or people that fit the mold. So, but if this is the case for a company like TikTok, and I think that there is an argument to be made that a lot of streaming platforms do push this. They obviously, even when companies like Dove, for example, engage in being diverse, they still only show people who are, you'll end up with like a wide range of ages and body types and so on and so forth, but they still deliberately pick people who are classically photogenic, within the range of the diversity that they're showing. If this is the case, one of the final things that TikTok was pushing was that they didn't want senior people to be on the platform. And I think if this culture exists where streaming platforms push, you have to be a certain way to succeed, then it's no wonder that this story happened. So, here's the actual part of the story.
Wow. I thought this story was going to
Here, a lady
called
called Chow Bailo, I think that's how it's pronounced, with all this pressure to present in a certain way to be youthful. Even on these different platforms, I think you can say this pressure is probably ubiquitous. Is it any wonder that people do all they can to present themselves as young and beautiful, use filters, and so on and so forth? Even more when money is on the line. So this blogger, Chow Bailo, had 100,000 followers on a platform called Do You, which is the link back to the title there. And she earned regularly from gifts from her hundreds of thousands of followers, to the point where she was earning, for example, £4,000 per stream at the height of her popularity. Which we can see as well. If you look at like Twitch as a platform, you can see people get loads of donations as well. They make it very popular. So these followers are reported to have worshipped her for being a cute goddess and donating, like I said, there's £4,000. Or if we go back a couple of episodes to another episode that we don't talk about Brexit, 40,000 Joannes, if you remember that.
I barely remember a Joanne.
I don't actually know the name.
1,000 Joannes to a pound.
Yeah. So, the secret to this story, though, the kicker, is that she was using filters and avatars, like I think a lot of people do on streaming platforms, but she was using them to quite a significant degree. So she mapped like a young avatar to her face, something which is only discovered when a technical glitch occurred, and it revealed that actually she was an older woman, significantly older than the 26-year-old she was presenting as. She was 57. And I totally support her. Like, this isn't a political group. She can grift all she wants on this front, because I think it's quite stupid to just donate to someone on the basis of finding them beautiful. Like, if they have something interesting to say, go wild. You can donate to those people. But I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on whether she's right or wrong to have done this? Because the people who donated and her followers were furious. And she took it pretty funny, like the pictures that her being revealed, she's like laughing at it.
I think,
Go, Tash.
Okay, I'll be quick. I promise I'll be quick. But basically, I think actually all of our stories have something in common this week, and it's about people doing actually quite skillful, impressive things. And I think this is one of them. Like, I think that's just like acting, isn't it? That's like a theatre performance, what she's doing, and she's making money off of it. Like, that makes sense. She's working, basically. I mean, the other aspect of the story, the fact that she's in a world or in a place where she knows that's the only way where she can make money in that way, in a way she wants to. So she wants to make money off of Do You, I think it's called. And she knows that the only way is to put this enormous amount of technical effort into building an avatar, and the avatar has to be 26 years old, and that she literally could predict that, and that it fucking works. I'm so sorry, I just swore. But yeah, that's sad, because that's a reflection of that particular society, that particular audience that chimes in. But she worked that. Like, she made that work for her, and it is quite funny that she was then revealed. It's almost kind of like trolling her own followers. Like,
she's made money. Like, at that point.
Yeah, those are my thoughts.
I think that she, I think it's how, like, if it was like a product that she'd missold, like, she'd sent, like, makeup out, and actually it was just, like, a pile of dust with some red in it, rather than some blusher or something, I don't know. Like, if it was something that was, like, dodgy, then that's fair enough for people being annoyed, but you can't missell, like, just performing and hitting, I don't know, like, just doing
like
what she
a digital product.
Yeah. It's like she's just her profile and it's all performing, isn't it? Like you said.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine.
There's donations as well, so it's not like anyone was paying her to be that. They were donating of their own volition.
Because I had read the story too. I'd read this during the week. And a part of the story is that people were aware that she was using a filter, and they were like, "Oh, why didn't you drop the filter? We want to see your real face." But they thought she was still a 26-year-old.
I didn't know that.
So because you could, because it's a very convincing filter. Like from some of the pictures that I saw, I was quite amazed. But there were at least some people who knew it was a thing, and they were like trying to send her money. There was like a thing where people were trying to send her money so that she would take off the filter, and she was like, "Oh, if you donate this much, I'll take it down." And then people had, and she still hadn't. But then the glitch happened, and it revealed it. And all the people who were paying her to take the filter off were like, "Oh, so, yeah, exactly." And then suddenly left the chat, and she realised.
So I think
when people started leaving.
There might have been a side of things where there were people who were sceptical in the same way that people are like a magician, and they wanted to debate that. But I do still think that by the sounds of things, there was a significant enough following of people who were just blindly...
Sure.
Because I don't think you donate £4,000 to get someone to take off a filter. I might donate, I don't know, £5 and be like, "Oh, I'm curious." But I wouldn't be like, "Oh, here's 4,000. That sounds like someone who's a bit neat." Like, what's it called? Not eager, it is. Enamored, yes. Yeah, exactly.
But also, brilliant PR from her. She's able to create that hype.
Go be an actor. I don't think you can go be an actor.
She can do our PR for us.
Yeah. Let's get in touch.
Anyone wants to donate
beautiful 26-year-olds.
I was going to say, next week, audience, tune in. And we're all just like, "Hello. My eyelashes. Ooh, I've actually got dressed today."
And you could sort of Photoshop some actual not pajamas onto my body.
That would be
kind of good.
That would be good. Yeah.
Post lockdown, everyone's in pajamas.
I know. I thought I'd put a jacket on to try and hide it, but I'm not gonna. I'll be honest. I mean,
I thought we were all dressed. I was convinced that we were all dressed, so
I've not been dressed in weeks,
Anyway,
we don't talk about it.
That is my story.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Well done, Michael.
I just want to say, we are perfectly on time. I don't know how we've managed this, but you are very well at timekeeping. At story content as well, but obviously more importantly, at timekeeping.
Absolutely.
Cute.
A brief refresher on how this part of the game works, because this is actually a game show, even though we forget that all the time. At this point, we're going to do a brief recap of the stories, and then what we're going to do is we are going to vote on who we thought the best story. We each get 2 votes. 1 vote worth 2 points, and then 1 vote worth 1 point. That's another count. If you're listening to the podcast, this will be like, "No, what are you talking about?" But if you watch the video, you just my fingers counting about it. And then at the end, we tally the votes, and the person who thought the best story will have the most points. I think, yeah.
Hopefully.
All the way around.
Unless it's sort of Eurovision political voting.
Yeah, well.
Jill
Even if he goes to crack.
got all of it.
So much social politics going on here. So much. So, my story was Lamborghini, about a young 5-year-old gent who is very driven, who wanted to buy his own Lamborghini and thus drove his parents' car to California with $3 in his pocket.
My story was This Little Piggy Goes to Tonga, about not William Golding getting stuck on a desert island, and everything going quite swimmingly. Until everyone got arrested.
My story was called Red Red Road. It was about one brave, heroic gentleman ethically attaching himself to the bottom of a wine tanker and guzzling down gallons of wine.
And my story was called Do You Want to Talk About Streaming? The story of one clever elderly lady elderly is not exactly bad, middle-aged lady, who who acted like the best of them and made a load of money out of it.
Nice.
Let's vote.
Amazing.
And the points are in. Very exciting. I guess I can't really do a drum roll on stream, can we?
I
Or
can.
you
I've
put
got
them in
a
on post.
Amazing drum
I mean,
roll.
it requires so much stress to even get a slight noise out of. So, in last place is myself with 2 points.
Oh,
Wait.
Michael.
Hang on, didn't we agree to not use last? We agreed to use like most medium or something like
medium. Most medium story.
The most medium story.
that.
We're either really nice about it or really brutal.
When
When
you- When you it's where someone's got a 0 usually is the indicator.
Well, but it's interesting though,
I've got a 0 so often.
it's all relative in that you might have told an absolute zinger, but 3 people told amazing.
Yeah,
stories.
exactly.
And hence you'll just get, this point system, I didn't really think it through when I came up with it.
Every week where I've been proud of my story, I've listened to someone else's and I've been like, oh, they've just smashed it out of the park.
Well, it's kind of like a balance between finding a good story and then being able to weave it into a narrative for the podcast and ask the right questions for people to bounce off.
Exactly.
And I think that's the balance you strike. In joint second place, with 3 points each, are George and Tash.
Hey!
Which means, in first
No,
place...
you're just going to leave me hanging, Tash?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, great.
Amazing.
Which means, in first place, with an amazing total of 4 points,
Way well done.
is Katie Moncaster.
Hey!
Did you just dab?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a man dab 1,000 times in a second?
Oh no, the clicking of the microphone.
Well done, Katie.
Guys.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Katie.
It was a really good story.
I
Yeah.
thought it was really sensible when I started out just saying, I'm talking about a man, he's a really good man, he's a great man, I love this man. Like, I just sounded like Donald
He did a thing.
The word
What we've
California
learned.
was the only relevant word for about 3 minutes, and I was like, Katie's just found this now, isn't she? She's just looking and it's like, oh my god.
What I think
I
we've learned
have
is
a
that-
way with words.
Well, yeah, confidence is key here. In that, you said to us last night, you were like, "I'll find the story in the morning."
I spent a long time looking, and again, it was aliens that shall not be named, or like things that were just not very nice. And I was like, I don't want to talk about hilarious things.
That makes sense.
No, I think the story gave me hope. I'm just picturing myself doing something like that at this particular point in time in the world that I shall not name. Yeah, that would be quite a... Yeah, there's a limited number of crazy things that you can do in this particular time. And that's one of them.
You're still gonna sell wine.
Yeah.
It was like the closing line that Dumbledore might say at the end of a Harry Potter movie, like, the real thing was love, Harry, but instead applied to something completely bad too.
And now I'm off to a rave. I can really imagine Dumbledore at a rave.
All right.
No?
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway,
Fine.
thank you very much for listening. And
watching.
are we? Is this and watching? Yes, I assume. I don't know if we're making this. George? Are we making this a weekly thing?
We'll see.
All right. Thanks.
That's all right.
All right. If we are, catch you next week, and if not,
Have fun.
have fun. Yeah.
Let's all do an embarrassing goodbye thing. Bye!
Goodbye. Goodbye.